Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to this other edition of Prime on My Media Prime. We are sorry for the slight later start for today's edition of the program. We are going to be looking at answering the question as to why SOWEDA and MIDENO are not often cited as key partners in the reconstruction process of the Southwest and Northwest regions, knowing fully well that these are the core institutions are responsible for local development in these two regions. Why are they not cited often when we talk of reconstructing these two regions? We also are going to be asking the question whether the population of the Southwest and Northwest regions are not also suffering from what they did not bargain for. We are talking about the ongoing conflicts in these regions, making life very, very difficult, miserable for the majority of those living in there. Very difficult to bury even loved ones that are lost in one or other under one or other circumstance. We are discussing this with our panelists who are seated already in the house. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is a social entrepreneur. He is a politician and an educationist par excellence. Good evening and welcome.
Oh, thank you, and good evening to our listeners out there. Very exciting topics tonight, and I'm sure we have a lot to learn from these topics. Just to say that if those two organizations are not mentioned, it's because they have failed to move forward.
Okay, we are also in the company of Richard Tamfu. He is a very key rights activist, but a militant with the Cameroon Renaissance movement. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to all those who are viewing my Prime TV. It's always a pleasure to be here. The topics which you just broadly mentioned are very important ones, and we hope that we are going to put in our input and enlighten your audience as to what is going on, and then give our own opinion with what is happening.
Okay, also with us is son Derek, who is a member of the civil society. Good evening and welcome, son.
Good evening, Mr. Yu. Good evening to other panelists. It's always a pleasure to be here, and we pray that our discussions should be positive so that at the end we'll go back home thinking that we've contributed to nation building.
We're also in the company of Tamai Jarvis, who is sitting in for Richard. Difficult to get through to him through Skype because of some technical hitches out here. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Joe. Good evening to Dr. Nick. Good evening to all the panelists. Good evening to Yaounde. Good evening to Baba Juol. And good evening to the Reconstruction Committee.
Okay. Good evening to the Reconstruction Committee. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. Are you surprised that SOWEDA and MIDENO are not actually key partners in the reconstruction plan for the Southwest and Northwest regions at a time when we are looking forward for the two regions to regain shape?
I'm not surprised at all, because these two institutions don't have what it takes to reconstruct anything. Because without the war, for all the years that they've been existing, they couldn't show you anything that they constructed. So to be going after them to reconstruct when they have not had the skills or not shown any capacity to do anything would be a waste of time. They've had a lot of resources, but you know, they have poorly managed those resources. You know, you want to add MIDENO, GP Derudep, and all those ones, Lifidep, all those. There's a huge problem there. There's a huge problem. And before we even get lost, let me say that, you know, these structures are crafted by the president and the government and put there, and the idea is to be able to help the populations, and the nation to move forward. But the unfortunate thing is, you know, these are supposed to be entrepreneurial institutions, but civil servants are nominated to these structures, and civil servants by their nature don't know how to solve problems, don't know how to produce wealth, or don't know how to do much, and they would sit there and use these structures to continue to sing praises to the president. So you get the impression that they were appointed to be singing praises and fighting on behalf of the president, which messes up everything. And that is where the problem is. We are talking of structures and people who don't understand problems, who don't know how to solve problems, who don't know how to create wealth. You know, these structures are not for praise singing, they are for solving problems in the nation. But we are saying that the people don't know how to solve any problems, and we cannot expect very much from them. And a good example of that failure, if you notice, in the past couple of days, there have been a boxing match between the president of the Southwest Regional Council, who doesn't seem to know his left from his right, and then you have one Chief Ebako who probably has some idea of what has to be done. But you see, when you know what has to be done, and you are down here and you have someone who is above you, who is incompetent, you are bound to have these kind of fights. He is singing the praises to the president instead of trying to think to see how he can solve problems. That's where our problems come from.
Yeah, but you're already indexing SOWEDA and MIDENO. You say they have not done a lot. Isn't it also because they have not been given enough resources to be able to sort things out?
Thank you very much. I mean, MIDENO has had billions and billions and billions, and they cannot show proof of what they have done. And I'm glad you come from whom. You see, you know, they had a lot of resources, financial resources, human resources, material resources, caterpillars and whatnot, and then you have landed property resources. I know about the WADA in Womb, you know about the rice farms in UNDVD, and all those things are just lying there. Follow, go over, you see all those buildings that MIDENO has built all over and so on. I don't really know. It's just so sad. But I was still very young to understand. There was this project called Mideviv in those days, and I think Mideviv was in the days of the Green Revolution. Mideviv was more successful than what we've had today. They have a lot of money that they just share to themselves. You know, give the money out to their own private companies. They do whatever they want to do, and at the end of the day, we come out with nothing.
Okay, by Satamfu, isn't it surprising that these are not the leading actors in the push for the reconstruction of the Southwest and Northwest region, given the fact that they have the mastery? They have been working in, I'm sure, the remotest parts of these two regions.
Yes, it's really very surprising because when you look at those two structures, they were all created by a presidential decree, meaning that is the executive power who put it in place, maybe because he had a vision. And when you have an executive structure which does not follow up with its own organs, we have the consequences that we are having today. The spirit in those days when these structures were created, it was to develop maybe our rural farming and other projects, but along the line the government abandoned the structures to people to manage, and maybe even appointing people who are heading those structures or managing structures without any skill. And every day we keep on pumping money and we don't see the result. People embezzle, nobody is threatened, and you see the activity just started falling as it is now. So today it is just dying. It is dead today because the executive or the people who are governing the country have failed in the vision that they were supposed to do. Because when you look at the MIDENO, the vision was to make people in rural areas to at least feel that if we are farming, let's have a place to sell, let's develop, let's construct our roads. But along the line, and that was a spirit of like giving power to that institution to be able to carry on with its own development activities. But now when you come down to organize issues like a reconstruction, for example, and those structures that you created, you have abandoned them, you don't more think about them, then that should tell you that it's as a result of the government itself. Maybe the government is even sleeping, or has even forgotten that those structures still exist, and everybody does things the way he likes, and nobody has the right to question people. I think that's just the consequences that we are facing today, that we don't have follow up in our activities. The idea is there. When we nurture the idea, there is nobody to follow up, and then if there is something to adjust along the road, nobody is there to draw the attention. And even when you draw the attention, people continue to give deaf ear. So it's not a surprise today that those two powerful structures, which we knew in those early days how they were active, trying to put in to make the people feel comfortable, to relieve people from their living standard, but today it is all dead because there have not been any follow-up. And it's when you look at the chain, the way we are being administered, or Cameroon is being administered, it should not surprise you, because you have somebody who is short of ideas and doesn't think that If I'm not able to follow up with something, I cannot allow another person to maybe come and see if he too can try, and then let's see also his shortcomings. So that is, but we just have to face it, because we have accepted to live in that condition, and until there is a really renaissance of Cameroonian structures, such establishment will have no place to stand. To me, I'm not surprised seeing
that they are sidelined to some extent. But Mr. Song, Derek, government, you create a structure that are existing. It is true that they are supposed to, they have been intervening more in the agricultural sector, but this is already structures. These are already structures that are existing. They have the platform to easily penetrate the grassroots. Isn't it also duplication of structures that you create a structure that is completely different from this one, where this one's not supposed to just play that role?
You know, there is one particular problem we have in Cameroon, and that problem is the duplication of function, where people try to create what already exists and rebrand it, giving it a name, a new name. This, to an extent, is an indirect wastage of the natural resources we are blessed with. You know, originally, we know that the existence of MIDENO is for the supervision of local developmental projects. And at this time, when we're talking of reconstruction, and we are talking about situations that we need them to reach the grassroots, it was an opportunity for the government to revamp it, knowing that these people already have a mastery of the terrain, they already have a mastery of the local population, and we get back to the government to redefine that vision, because we know MIDENO had the vision of supervising developmental projects, providing technical assistance, budget, financial mechanism, and improving the living standards of the local population. And at this time, whether it's MIDENO or SOWEDA, they are agricultural organization, and the Cameroon economy can only be boosted as it stands now when we push towards that agriculture, because majority of the people are agriculturalists. They are in the farm, and at this point in time, it's a call for concern, and we think that if the government should push their resources to reconstruct or to bring in a new structure, it will not help us, even if they have to bring that structure without accountability, because we have a problem with the system, the problem of accountability. Cameroon has been fragmented and divided in a way that everybody fits fat where he's tied, because nobody is accountable to any other person, and even those who are supposed to be accountable for, they have become more and more corrupt to the system.
Okay, more corrupt to the system. Tamai Jarvis, everybody is saying that the government is neglecting, duplicating. Would it not really have served the government to have used these guys, maybe broaden their scope?
We have a government that look at just the outcome of a situation and struggle to cope with the outcome than looking at the cause of the situation. I borrow with what Dr. Nick said some other time on this plateau, that reconstruction doesn't just begin with buildings. First of all, let's look at what caused the situation. And in Northwest and Southwest region, people complain that the power cam is gone, people complain the marketing board is gone, people complain that now we had MIDENO and SOWEDA. It is an opportunity for the government to say, hey, let us rebuild these two organizations, these two powerhouse in these two regions, assuming that there was poor management, as Dr. Nick said, but the poor management came because there was no follow-up, and the follow-up came because of the laxity of the system. And why can we not look at what went wrong with MIDENO, what went wrong with what is going wrong with SOWEDA, and see how we can boost these two sectors up to create more jobs? Remember, agriculture is the future. We cannot be talking about a nation where we import not only rice, we import tomatoes, we import we import granite, we import a lot of stuff that we are supposed to do or farm them in our land. Remember that we are in a system where we believe that we must solve things from a political perspective than looking at things from a grassroots perspective. This is what is happening now, Mr. Leonard. The Reconstruction Committee, they have not defined their scope of study. Their scope. What's their scope? Their scope is maybe it's just limited to building of hospitals that were destroyed, and maybe it's limited to building of structures that were destroyed. What about the mindset of these people? The mindset of these people come when they start talking about, hey guys, we want to reinvest in MIDENO, we want to reinvest in SOWEDA, and this is what SOWEDA will do when it's established in your area. This is what MIDENO will do to the people of the Northwest region. It's going to be, the scope is going to be broadened. Maybe we will now expand some departments like in other areas to see how we can diversify and ensure that the people look at it from a positive perspective. But our reconstruction team, Mr. Lo, which has spent 3.something billion, and they are afraid to tell us what they have spent it for in the North and Southwest region, they should be looking at...
but that information of 3.something billion, it seems as if they said they were quoted out of context there. Yeah.
They should come on. They should come on air. No, they should come on air and clarify the context. They are, see, Mr. Liu, one thing that I applaud most of these are official is that they don't like talking to the media. They like just allowing the media to do their guesswork. And when it's true, it's true. When it's false, a kind of cacophony. For example, you ask them to come on plateau and talk, they will not talk. This is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if we look at the SOWEDA, we look at MIDENO, the number of boys that are in the bush, the number of internally displaced persons, the number of people who escaped this region before, who were living in this region before the conflict, if this MIDENO was that active, Mr. Leo, it would have reduced the level of idleness, it would have reduced the level of agricultural dependence or importation. Just to shock you that we had a tomato factory built by the Germans, by the German, and this tomato factory was in Bamenda. And no, the Japanese constructed that tomato factory and managed that tomato factory for a certain period of time. That's why you see in Bamenda, you could see the tomato, it was the price was quite encouraging in terms of sales. But when they handed it over to a Cameroonian to manage under the government, the entire structure crumbled. Let me ask this concrete situation. Do you know that as we speak right now, 40% of agricultural land is not owned by Cameroonians? Because of the fact that MIDENO and SOWEDA are not active on the ground. If they were on the ground, they will probably bring up structures. They will probably bring us of farming policies that will help reduce the level of unemployment, will help boost the farm to market growth, will help construct, some agricultural sectors in Cameroon.
Now we saw the Reconstruction Commission. We saw them in the Northwest and Southwest regions trying to talk to the people out there. Would the people not readily discuss and present what they need through SOWEDA and MIDENO, since they live with the people on a daily, weekly, yearly basis? It is true that you say maybe they are not doing enough, but I'm sure I've seen many of the rural roads are reconstructed, water and other things done by either SOWEDA or MIDENO.
You will ask me a lot of questions, but I will keep coming back to the foundation of things. And before I get lost again in some nitty-gritty, let me say that we have lots of problems, and this is one of those problems that we're trying to solve. And we will talk about it because, we have TV time, it's our TV, and we can talk about it the whole day, but it's not going to get us anywhere. You remember last time we said that there is a dialogue that is coming. After that dialogue, there will be reconciliation, and after the reconciliation, there will be unity. It's based on that. It's a new foundation on which the new nation will be built. And when that new nation is built, then you will have sound management, sound leadership, sound everything, and a lot of these things will be thrashed. What you're going to see, what you're seeing now, will be wiped off the table, because we are dealing with outcomes of a major national dialogue that failed. Anything that came out of a national dialogue cannot work.
Was the fact that SOWEDA and MIDENO not also brought not on our side that the major national dialogue also overlooked? I don't understand that question. How do we go back to reconstruct, and in that commission that they were supposed to discuss reconstruction in these two regions, these guys were not a part of it?
Forget about it, because I'm telling you that the major national dialogue and the structures that were set under it, everything is kaput. It's not working. They don't follow the strategies. If they had followed the strategies very well, what was the main issue of the major national dialogue? Solve the Anglophone problem.
Yes, but how do you talk development, reconstruction in these two regions without this partners? Yes.
I'm telling you, I don't know how you don't understand English. I'm telling you that these structures are not useful.
No.
How can they solve problems? See,
no, let him learn. Yes.
no. If they had been solving problems, if they had been working, I mean, ever since they were created, doing serious work as they were supposed to have been doing, like Tavis was saying, a lot of you young people would have been busy producing the food and so on. It's because they just wore ties and coats and came around and turned around, drove big cars and so on, and produced nothing on the ground. It is a lack of productivity, that inability to produce anything. If you like, we will go down on the field and challenge them to show us what they have produced.
No, they have been producing seedlings. I've covered the events where they are distributing seedlings to farmers.
Seedlings. So you have 50. How many billions for seedlings? Where are the seedlings? Okay, you provided the seedlings. Where is the crop?
I'm sure. So we are certainly good. No,
they provided seedlings. No, but okay, just tell me. Okay, I'm not quarreling with them. What did they do with the water farms? What did they do with the rice fields and all that beautiful land in the plain? Can you answer? What are they doing with all those their big structures that have constructed everywhere? What are they doing with them? Nothing.
So I just add to what you said. I think the problem is a managerial issue. It's a managerial problem because these are state companies. Let's put it like that. These are state companies, and the state is supposed to do everything possible to make those structures function. Maybe there is a board. People are appointed as directors.
Yeah, but they are functional.
They have a planned road. Mm-hmm. They have what they need as budget. If they need to invest on this sector, they bring in the plan and they vote the budget. So if today we are not seeing them producing anything, it's because the government itself is not serious. You will not create these structures and you abandon them. You don't give them necessary resources. Even if you have given them the money, you don't follow up with the people who are there to manage. Have they been producing results? You don't care. You abandon people. Everybody embezzle what they can embezzle and keep. Nobody is there to question. You will never hear that they have made an audit. They have audited those structures. No. You just give them money. They squander it. Nobody cares. And you is the farmer. You even build up a project. You present to those people. Nobody will finance it for you. If you don't belong to a certain clan, you will never have access to it. They themselves care less about the population. I think it's a managerial issue, and that's the problem. To me, I see that we should look at it in the form of that is the government has failed to manage those two structures. Meaning that when we have serious construction plans, they are not associated because the government has even forgotten that they exist.
No, the government cannot forget because they have.
The government is not seeing them as important structures to partner with.
Yeah, but why don't you also?
The government prefers to create a new thing, give another budget for people to embezzle, and it is because the people who are like administering those sectors, they are the wrong advices that they put. Instead of telling, for example, the executive or the governor or whatever a person that no, instead of creating another organization, this one already exists. If the personnel who are there have been dormant, let's maybe change them and put those who have ideas, and let's put people who you not, for example, like the MIDENO, you not go and take a medical doctor and you put there when he has to maybe be thinking about agricultural issues. You will not go and take a mechanic and put him there when he has to think about how do I raise money. So you need to put people who have entrepreneurship, who have skills, who can know that, okay, if we invest this maybe on a farm project, it's going to yield this, it's going to employ this number of Cameroonians, we are going to sell this and we are going to progress. And after that, this is the next thing that we are supposed to do. So we should be looking at it as a failed form of management that it should be on the sole responsibility of the government.
Now, these persons, whether we like it or not, they master the regions better. If Dr. Nick is talking about the field major national dialogue, was not where the error might have been committed, where we are discussing about the development of the region in Yaoundé, and not necessarily bringing the technicians, because here we are talking about the technicians on the ground who are working with these guys. They have seen them carry out activities in Dikomebalwe. I saw the bridge that was constructed by SOWEDA around mile 14. I've seen routes that they have done in Manu Division, and these are the technicians on the field, and decisions were taken in Yaoundé without them.
You know, at this point, let me side with Dr. Nick before I come back with something. The situation with the Cameroon is that, like I said, Cameroon has been balkanized. It has been subdivided, that people are placed wherever they are to enjoy the goodies of the country. And if you're talking about the major national monologue, it did not suggest anything to help this country. And even when we are talking about the reconstruction of SOWEDA and MIDENO, we are at one point in time even short-sighted, because the reconstruction of these people must start psychologically. There has to be psychological reconstruction, and the government too has to understand that the destruction or the reconstruction we are talking about is because things have been destroyed, and this destruction is not only physical, and this destruction is not a 2016 destruction. It is a destruction that has lasted for long. And when we talk about people going to the fields, Yaoundé gives out contracts to those who are willing to embezzle money. And before you even win a contract in Cameroon, you are willing to give out a percentage of what you have to win in that contract to someone who has to offer you that same contract. And that's the fun time in the country where the accountability problem, where I'm driving to, that the greatest problem we have in Cameroon is not the fact that the finance is not there, because there is money everywhere and there is results nowhere. Money, we have it everywhere, but there is no result. And that the reason for that is because we have that problem of accountability, where money is being disbursed, but no one comes to control. And even those who come to control the money that is being disbursed become more corrupt than the people that receive the money. And that's the problem. Cameroon is that system wherein you send people to the field. For instance, we won't talk about the head of state. In other countries, presidents inaugurate finished product. In our country, presidents inaugurate foundation stones. And that's one problem we have, because there is always a situation where the foundation stone is laid, but there is no situation where there is a critical follow-up to see that the end product is done. That is one big problem we have. No matter how many technicians, no matter how good the technicians are sent, you know, Mr. Leo, it's very clear that if you are a road constructor, a contractor, there is a manager. A manager is an expert to do follow-up. And even a contractor needs an accountant, because an accountant will better manage the finance than what he does. But the issue with us is that we leave money to those who know nothing about controlling money. You know, money is very volatile. When you hold money, you just feel like it's there.
Mr. Song, I'm saying that these guys are the technicians. Decisions were taken in Yaoundé. Was it not important to have them also take part in the designing of what is going to be implemented?
Of course, that's what we are saying, that unfortunately, those people who are to take part, they only send those who are ready to embezzle money.
Okay.
And that's the problem with the same system we have.
Yes, Tamai.
Before you ask a question, there is what we call entitlement.
Okay.
And we are killed in Cameroon by the entitlement syndrome, where people believe they are entitled to their party, and it is because of their party that they are where they are, and they don't see the need of carrying out private initiative. They don't see the need of going beyond and kicking the box out. And who heads the reconstruction team in Southwest? An elite from the region. Who headed in Northwest? An elite from the region. Who are the top ministers we have in Cameroon? Elite from the Northwest, elite from the Southwest. During the major national dialogue, where Dr. Nick is saying it failed and Song is calling it monologue, were consultation done prior to this major national dialogue? Yes, they were done. At the divisional level? Yes. At the subdivisional level? Yes. Did the elite go down to the field? We had a young commission
went down to the field. We had the Mosenge Commission that went down to the field. We even had the almighty Chief Dr. Joseph Jongute's commission that even went down and said the head of state has given him the mandate to come and talk so that dialogue can effectively begin. Even though we had some others who were saying on France 24 that there is no dialogue that is going to take place. Now, Mr. Leo, ask yourself, all these consultation at the level of the individual divisions, what were the people telling the same elite? They told them about their problem, about the issue of poor development, the issue of revamping the sectors that have been abandoned in West Cameroon. They talk about the development of MIDENO. They talk about the empowerment of SOWEDA, that they talk about expanding SOWEDA needs so that farmers can benefit. They talk about the power camp in Muyuka. They talk about the marketing board. These were things that they talked about. And when they went now to even to hand over this petition, the elite now took the mandate to meet the Prime Minister in Yaoundé. We all watch how delegation upon delegation, they were talking with the Prime Minister, and at the end of the day, the government sat and decided that, oh, let's appoint a son of Southwest to head Reconstruction, because we know that he understood what is happening in his region. Let's appoint that of Northwest so that, because they understood. But sad reality is that this entitlement syndrome, where they believe that they were appointed by Yaoundé from a particular party, that they owe allegiance to that party, and they find it as a threat to want to do something out of that box that will benefit the common man as a dismissal to that position. They limit their confine into where they are. This is what we are witnessing today. How do we have two powerhouses in the northwest and southwest region that will help the local mami in the corner? Mr. Yo, I have gone to Momo Division. There is a place they call Emwa in Momo Division, where when you go to Emwa in those hinterlands, you see beautiful cocoyams, good cocoyams, but there are no roads to transport those cocoyams. Right to Camer, right to Nkun, there no roads. And you ask yourself, how will these people with fertile land, good production, good crops, how will they reach the market? It all tells you that we need road. Who were to construct this road? MIDENO. Why are they not constructing it? Poor management of the system. Why is there poor management of the system? Entitlement syndrome. Why is there entitlement syndrome? Because a certain party or a certain group of individuals believe that they own Cameroon. It is incumbent for our elite in the north and southwest region to understand that the priority of MIDENO and Southwest Development Corporation is supposed to be their focus. Those are the issue where they don't need to play politics. But you ask yourself, what are they discussing? They are discussing celebrating anniversary of the party, celebrating anniversary of the head of state, celebrating anniversary of we like celebrating because we believe that those are the things that keep us to enjoy our power. Dear elite, MIDENO and Southwest Development Corporation should be a priority. It will reduce the conflict in North and Southwest region. It will create more jobs opportunity for the youth and boost the agricultural sector.
Okay. Good evening to you guys in the studio. Peter Assad from Yaoundé. What Mr. Dr. Nick is trying to say is that whatever we are trying to talk about now as a problem in this country and bringing out solution when this same government or regime is still in place with all the fake promises, whatever we say will amount to nothing till the whole network of government is out and new flesh comes in. Then something can happen now new as a solution to the problems. Thank you, Assad, for contributing. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The government is just deceiving the people. If they were serious, they would have reconstructed hospitals that were burned down as a matter of urgency. This would also prove that they did not have a hand in the destruction. Henry is writing from Kumba. What dialogue is talking about and where is it going to take place? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo and Figure in Bermuda, enjoying your program. I think reconstruction plan is just one of the delay tactics of the government. If they are yet ready for anything positive in the northwest and southwest regions, please tell Mr. Jarvis to be using the current name of Voices so we can quickly understand his narrative. Okay. I don't know what he's talking about. Dr. Nick, isn't this also what people are talking about, over centralization of power, where decision for that are supposed decisions of actions that are supposed to be implemented in regions taken in Yaoundé, and we see most of those assigned to pilot these activities are acting from Yaoundé.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, the man whose comment you just read is right. You know, and it's based on that I've been saying all the things that I keep saying. You cannot put new wine into old wine skins. It doesn't work. The Bible says it. Because you have been dealing with the old wine skins and they've not really solved the problem. So you've got to deal with new wine in new wine skins. That's how it will work. Anything out of that, it will not work. And again, as I said, someone was saying what dialogue and so on. There's going to be dialogue, and this dialogue will be a true, inclusive dialogue, and that dialogue will discuss the form of state, and it will be a dialogue now like no other dialogue you've ever seen, because this stupid war must stop, and only the dialogue can stop that war. You can say anything, but only a dialogue, a true and inclusive dialogue, can stop that war. It doesn't matter whether the dialogue will be on the moon, under the sea, in America, in Serbia, or wherever. Just know that there's going to be dialogue, and that dialogue is going to try to look for that peace wherever the peace went to. The dialogue is going to go there and look for that peace. Just have it as a how do you say it in English? It's an established position, because that's how things work. It's a principle. You have a problem with your wife in the house, you must talk before the problem goes away. If you don't talk, the problem would continue. Simple. Now that said, what was the other part of your question again?
My question remains that decisions that are supposed to affect the people of the regions are taken in Yaoundé.
That's right.
Obviously, most of the core actors are also acting from Yaoundé.
That's right. I mean, if you ask what was the source of the Anglophone problem, the source of the Anglophone problem is this over-centralization of power in Yaoundé, and to solve the Anglophone problem, you are supposed to, take power from the center and bring it to the periphery. That's what the form of state will be doing, and so it's been this over-centralization of power over the years, which does not allow someone at the periphery to do his own business and so on. And Anglophones are not used to working under that kind of a system, and that's what caused the friction. And so this must be corrected. There are no two ways to it. This must be corrected. And another thing I'd like to draw the attention of our listeners to is what President Sarkozy said a couple of years back in the company of President Paul Biya. And what he said was very true, that Africans, in the way God made Africans, is we just kind of like rotate around with the seasons. We go from the rainy season to the dry season, from the rainy season to the dry season, but we don't project for 5 years, for 10 years, and try to do something out of the box. We don't try to put in place things that would mature in 10 years. We only know that when the rainy season is coming, we plant corn, the dry season is coming, we burn the bushes. We just keep doing like that and going from day to day. We don't have this projected vision into the future, and it's messing us up. And of course, things must work and things must change. Why? Because inasmuch as the French had their knees on our necks yesterday, the purpose was to keep us blinded, our school system not very developed, so that they could continue to milk us. But in the meantime, a lot of our children have gone and flooded France and Belgium and so on. They don't have any more space, and people are dying all over the whole place, in the Mediterranean, in the Sahara, and so this exodus. So everybody's kind of like fed up, and the thing is, what must they do? In this last summit, Afrique summit, where Macron, like I was reading some commentaries, the Macrons and the others are saying we must give this, we must give our, how do you put it? There is this expression, the chicken that lays the golden egg. All right, what France was doing up until now, they were over milking and killing the chicken that lays the golden egg, and they just realized that if they kill that chicken, they'll also be dead. So they say, okay, why don't we feed this chicken some crumbs and see whether we can revive it? That's what they were doing. And therefore, Africa has got to wake up and not just take crumbs, but rise up to the occasion. When Africa leaves, France will leave. When Africa leaves, Europe will leave. But if you kill Africa, you also kill yourself. So that's where we are now.
Okay.
And most of these things that were put there a long time ago will have to go.
Okay, Mr. Leo, we really much love your program, but I want to assure you, no matter all the talking this government is so adamant to change, just look at the Bamenda Babaju road, which is the most busy road after the Yaoundé Douala road. Mr. Leo, these guys are just not serious. Good evening to you, writing Elvis. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The problem is that politicians don't involve technocrats in any project development process. Good evening to you too. And let me take this one. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I like the program going on because I'm a worker in SOWEDA, Southwest. Okay, Mr. Lyunga is writing from Boya. Thank you, Mr. Lyunga. Greetings to the crew, Dr. Nick, the human encyclopedia of our time, the replica of Kadnatumi, Farmer Gideon, writing from Taku in Indu. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's difficult for MIDENO or SOWEDA to succeed in their projects when the governors are still their bosses. Tata Divine is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's my pleasure watching the program from Bamenda. My worry is directed to Dr. Nick, who is so confident of another upcoming dialogue to resolve the numerous problems of this country. When exactly will that take place so as to limit wanton killings going on in the northwest and southwest? We are tired. It's rule and writing from Bamenda, but we understand that these are two development structures, because when we talk of development in these regions, these are the key players. Yes, and we see the reconstruction development efforts are being piloted from Yaoundé and by Anglophones. Is this not also, can we not also ask ourselves, why did you not decide to be piloting these things from both the southwest and northwest regions through existing structures that are which are MIDENO and SOWEDA?
Mr. Leo, the problems of Cameroonians are the Cameroonians themselves. When you have people who have the opportunity to maybe lead others, they instead think about private interest than general interest. So, and when you have people who are called to Yaoundé to talk about maybe general interest, what they are not interested in what will benefit the general public, the general population. They are interested in what will enter their pockets. So they prefer to stay in Yaoundé and they give them what they have to do there. They come now and they manage. So if, for example, there was any good political will with respect to how those two structures created by this same regime, if there was that genuine political will, then meaning that when we have issues like the reconstruction, as you are talking about, these are the structures who are supposed to be the active participants or the actors to see how we reconstruct or what do we have to do. So we are just living a system that has been dormant for so long, and those people who have projected themselves to be like elites have failed us, and that is high time that we have this old regime to be swept out for new people now to see if possible we'll have to maybe revive MIDENO, revive SOWEDA, because if we still have to continue with this same regime in place, those structures will never emerge. They are already forgotten. So I'm not expecting anything from them now. It is only after this regime is out that another regime we can have hopes, because we are living a crisis environment. For them, they care less about resolving it. They'll tell you that no, we have the competence, or the people who go there and speak for us say no, it's time, let's reconstruct. Give me the money, let me go to the field, I'll build this, I'll impose it. The person is not taking the project to come and talk with the people that, okay, there is this that is ongoing. How do we go about it so that people can give ideas? No, they want to always think in Yaoundé and they come and impose it in the English part. So that's the challenges. So they are not serving the people themselves; they are serving their own personal interests.
Yeah. Derek, is it despite the fact that we may say MIDENO and SOWEDA may not be delivering the goods, but technically speaking, would it not be more convincing for the guys in Boya and Bamenda to tell people that we are ready to reconstruct, given the fact that they have been seen by the communities building roads, taps, and would it not be more convincing?
Yeah, I think concerning that, it will be more convincing. Like we said at the beginning, that the MIDENO and SOWEDA are entangled right to the grassroots. They understand the people, they know the people. We know of the construction of road by SOWEDA, the Bokwango, and all the roads linking, small little roads that link. It will be very convincing. Our problem with them, or the problem with them, is that even within themselves, there is that fear, and they don't have that confidence in themselves, because they are not even accountable to the people. Remember, they are not even accountable to the people. They are accountable to the system that puts them in place. That's why Jarvis is just from saying that there is a problem with Cameroon, and that particular problem is that people get appointed and they get a lot of barriers during their appointment. It's the same everywhere. Even a minister is appointed to serve the country, and he ends up serving as a politician and not a minister. Those are those kind of problems we have, and these people know that they are closer to the people on ground, but they have a problem of accountability to that same people. They are not accountable to the people, they are accountable to a person who never even asks them accounts. And that's why even themselves, they can only have confidence to ask for what will feed them, not what will feed the people. Mr. Leo, that one is a very big problem.
Okay, good evening. I love your program. I just have a worry. Do our government leaders ever watch your programs or listen to some of the recommendations often given by enlightened Cameroonians who often come in as resource persons in your program? Bertrand is writing from Benin. I'm sure they're watching. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Derek Kum in Gaundere. Really love your program. I think the real problem of the country is accountability. Okay, Mr. Ngu from Bomenda, good evening to you in the studio. Heavy-duty machines were brought to construct roads in Northwest by MIDENO, but now in different regions doing construction on contracts. Okay, good evening to you all in the house. The Republic really needs to call genuine talks before all the people die. Okay, Frank is writing from Cape Town. Frank, good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I just want to ask if the dialogue Dr. Nick is saying will go to take place where everyone in the Northwest and Southwest must have been killed before it's going to hold. You are writing from the United Arab Emirates. These technicians, it is true, but we have also heard very little from them since this conflict started. Can we also say that their hands are tied to some extent because of the prevailing situation?
Nobody's hands in Cameroon is tied.
Okay.
Nobody. If hands were tied, people would not embezzle money. That's a clear example. Nobody hands in Cameroon is tied. They are just using the pretext of hands are tied. Mr. Liu, for example, if you are appointed in a position and you feel like you have that moral responsibility to deliver, and somebody tells you, hey, if you do like this, I will sack you, why don't you resign and keep your integrity? We have an integrity crisis in Cameroon where we glorify thieves and humiliate those who are found worthy in character to be awarded contracts, found worthy in character to be appointed in positions, but rather we applaud people who have been found unworthy in character to be appointed. Mr. Liu, let me ask a simple question. It's an issue of mediocrity. If you tolerate it, you should not say your hands are tied. I don't want to hear that the hands of the Southwest executive members are tied. Example, Chief Atem Ebaku will come out and speak his mind. 48 hours, a communique will come and say people should not speak anyhow, that nobody has been mandated. So, whose hands is tied at this point in time? It tells you that it's just great. Who is the head of Reconstruction? It's an Anglophone, bona fide, in Southwest. Who is that in Bamenda? An Anglophone, bona fide, in Southwest. When they went for consultation, Even in Boya, I was at the council hall when people talk about 10, 4, 2, 3 state different forms of federation, confederation. We all witnessed the material that were written. When you went to Yaoundé, to the Prime Minister's office, it was decentralization. But who brought in those documents? Elites from the Southwest region. Who listened to the people early from the Southwest region? What did the people say? 10 for any form of federation, confederation. But what were the messenger at the Prime Minister's office? Decentralization. Did somebody tie a hand to come and? No. COVID money is a clear example that nobody's hands is tied. You are giving money to help COVID and you embezzle it. So the truth is that the elite from the Northwest and Southwest region, they are the people killing the regions. They should not say their hands are tied. Let me give you another example. Look at what Honorable Ngalajerat is doing. Doing a lot of achievement in Donga Mantu division. It's a parliamentarian. If you ask all the other parliamentarians why are they not doing, they will tell their hands are tied. But it's Honorable Ngalajerat's hands not tied, but he's doing it. Go out of your niche. If you find out that you cannot do it, resign. If I discover in where I'm working that I can be unethical based on my, I will resign. It's greed. We glorify all these people when they pass with big cars, say, hey, minister, this. But when you look at a thief being beaten in Marché Congo, you insult that thief and you see that person passing with a COVID money, we will glorify those person. If you come to MIDENO, look at what MIDENO is doing. People say, Dr. Nick said it failed because of management. Yes, let's assume it failed. Before this period of 1972, between 1972 till when we had, between 1961 to 1972, were these structures, that were the existing structures in West Cameroon succeeding? Yes, they were succeeding. Between the period when we had the federal structure till now, they were succeeding. We had a lot of success stories, but why are they not succeeding now? It's simply because of the centralization, where people feel entitled that if I belong to a CPDM party or a certain party, I will have the ability to do things based on party lineage and glorify whoever is my investiture, and at the end of the day, I am unable to deliver. So, Mr. Leon, I want us to understand this. Dear elites from the North and Southwest regions, your hands are not tied.
Okay. Good evening to you, Nkemabin Desmond, to you, Wesley Ngoni Tiku, and One Chacha. Good evening to you, Sam Rich, and to you, Wesley. Eddie Kind, good evening to you. Amos Mui, Kudayan Frostland, good evening to you, Etue. Gabriel Elung, and Deep Tambe Ebot, good evening to you. Emmanuel Etoke, Jack Ashiglu, and to you, Frank Visage Gilberto Salo, good evening to you. Mola Ekema, always watching, and to you, Prince Jacob JK, and Jack Shilgu, good evening to you. Misela Mafwa, Epia Denis Ebongash, good evening to you. Tabot Rapper and Valeur Ebaye, and to you, Nge Fredo. Many persons are also asking the question what MIDENO and SOWEDA have been able to accomplish this far. Do we see here a problem of accountability also? That is regularly telling the people what they have been able to achieve with the resources that are being given to them. That is, if possible, regularly calling a press conference to render account.
Now, the failure of SOWEDA and NOWEDA and many other structures like them is the causes are multifactorial. It's not just one cause.
Okay.
So you would mention accountability, but if you have, let's say, a set of about five reasons or points why something fails, you can also give them different weights. You can give them different weights, and when you want to actually find out why those structures are failing, accountability does not rise to the top. It is lack of capacity. That's the first thing. It's lack of entrepreneurial capacity. It's lack of they don't have an understanding of problems. They don't know how to solve problems, and they don't know how to create wealth. I mean, to make you understand and see clearly what I'm saying, I'm glad that Jarvis mentioned Honorable Jalangala. Look, we could probably do some kind of a challenge. Let's give MIDENO Unfortunately, the money is spent. The money, the billions, the 50-something billion that was given to GP, MIDENO, all those things, all that money is spent. But let's imagine that there were peace, and we had that all those billions lying there, and you put Jero and Gala there, you will see a change. You will see a change. Or if you put someone like Honorable His Excellency Shea Jones there, you will see a change. These are entrepreneurs, not blah, 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 blah. It's because these people you just take some civil servants, some headmaster from there, put there. Even your NDP is not working. Oh, take a headmaster from there, take that one from there, and dump them there just because they sing CPDM song. No, we are past that level. It's not about singing CPDM song, because you are singing the song and then children are suffering. People are suffering. It's not about singing. Look, I don't know where this thing came from. The president is not interested in those who are praises. He's not at all. If you want to support the president, do your work so that the civilians, the people who have given him the power, can actually say the president is working. When people are attacking the president and saying the president has not succeeded, and then these people who have been, all these elites who have been appointed, they sit very quietly somewhere. No, actually, if you really love the president, you should not be singing praises to him. You should be doing the work for which you are appointed, and those results. And if everybody were doing that, the whole of the nation, all of the nation would have been going up like this. So it's a failure of all these civil servants, no understanding of entrepreneurship, just singing the president's praises. All that rubbish will stop.
All that rubbish will stop. We hope that it does. Now, has the population over the years, you have at least heard about SOWEDA, you've seen some of the works of MIDENO. Do you have the impression that the people of the southwest and other regions actually see SOWEDA and MIDENO as those vectors, institutions that would bring them development?
Well, from the early days, one could believe that, but at present now, I don't think that's still the same perception.
Have they been doing that? Do the people really see them as those institutions that readily bring development to their doorsteps?
So at first, I say that at first, so many people believed in it. So they came, when they were starting, I saw how farmers were encouraged. They were struggling to build roads, but after some time, it was abandoned. So the perception that people have now is not what they used to have when those structures were set up. So now I think that everybody has lost hope. They don't still believe in it. So the best thing would be maybe to rethink. Let's rethink MIDENO and SOWEDA. Let's rethink. Let's put people who are skilled. Let's have a map road. Let's have people who can manage and who are able to give account. Let's have people who can create.
Do you really think that's a problem? Because I know some of the workers at SOWEDA who are technicians, who are engineers, who are doctors. Are they not? Is the problem not also with the amount of resources put at their disposal?
Well, I don't have any information with respect to the resource back. I know what I know is that if the government was serious in making those structures function properly, they will function. You will not want to decide issues concerning MIDENO. You are deciding it in Yaoundé and coming to implement. Decide it there at the head office or where the MIDENO is.
Is that not also where the problem is now?
See the problems of the people, what they need, where do we invest, what sector of activity do we develop. Speak it there. People have represented. For example, if the government was serious, if there's a board meeting or an assembly or whatsoever of MIDENO, they will invite people. This sector is represented. This other subdivision is represented, and people are there. They sit. They discuss their challenges. They discuss what are the possible solutions. They even vote a budget, and if that budget is given, they manage it and then they give account. But that is not how it is being run.
Okay.
Things are done in Yaoundé. You are crying that maybe you have headache. In Yaoundé, they are instead healing typhoid, and they want to impose it on us. That is how Cameroon is being managed, and it is a cause of all what we are having today. All what we are living today is because everything is centralized in Yaoundé. Things are not being done according to what people feel on the ground. So making people to lose hope into all those structures. Nobody cares about those structures. They don't still believe that anything can come. So it is time that let's rethink those structures. If actually they were set up to really encourage rural development, let's see where we failed, let's see how we can rethink, and then let's see how we can make it to move forward.
Okay. Elvis Brown is watching from Shell New Bell. Mr. Liu, I love your program. Thank you very much, Elvis, watching from Shell New Bell. I hope I'll visit you one of these days. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the panelists. I believe we understand that dialogue is a situation where two conflicting parties come together, talk about their weaknesses, reconcile, and find a way forward. Is that what happened in Yaoundé? The concept dialogue was not well defined as such. And Dokwo Michael is writing from Bomenda. Ima Kong, writing from Boya, says, greetings to you and the panelists. Good topic. I wish we had representatives of SOWEDA and MIDENO on the panel to tell us why they are supposedly being ignored. Ima, I've severally struggled to get through to the hierarchy of MIDENO, even for a simple interview. It's an uphill task, very difficult. They're always very busy. So we have
it's the same thing they will say.
So we have
put
to
the out of context.
Yeah. Mr. Kum, good day. Your topic is relevant, but to treat the two as one and the same is wrong, because how are the two operate and the benefits of their regions is different. SOWEDA to a greater extent has helped its people, particularly in the hinterlands. Example, construction of farm to market routes, distribution of seeds, provisions of pipe-borne waters, etc. Obi is writing from Boya. I highlighted that already, Obi, because I myself have accompanied SOWEDA do some of these things out there in the Southwest region. Mr. Leo, God bless the program and give it a long life. This is Walter's chair from Bamenda. Is reconstruction after the war or during the war? War is still going on, and how can MIDENO someday work with gunshots? Dr. Nick, how I wish you were appointed Prime Minister in this country. Okay. Peter Assad, hands are tied when it concerns going against the government and serving the population, but being a puppet to the government and doing what benefits them, then we can say their hands are not tied. Okay. Julius Chopford says that, good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and the whole panel. The major national dialogue brought Mr. Bia a lot of precious time. Some people are only seeing now what a 5-year-old should have seen, that the centralization and special status are empty. Is the dialogue that Dr. Nick now talking about another way to buy even more time for Mr. Bia to try and win the war? Chofo is writing from the UK. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Richard from Balmayo. Please help us here. What is happening in Balmayo? Let me know. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and your wonderful cream of panelists watching and learning from K-Town. Daisy, good evening to you, a fan of the program. Mr. Kuman, good evening. I am Pa Frank from Bamenda from the name MIDENO. The structure already failed. You gave the name of a structure in French in an Anglophone region. How do you expect it to function? Okay. Mr. Leo, good evening to you and your wonderful, intelligent panelists. The answer to your question is simple. There is a group of individuals who feel that this country belongs to them and that Anglophones don't have the appetite to embezzle funds meant to serve public interest. Believe me, very soon these people will be quitting the scene. Amin, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you in the studio. The problem with our leaders is that they don't care about their people except themselves and family. From Boomniebel, good evening to you. Now, the question I would like all of us to answer here is that MIDENO is existing, SOWEDA is existing, and today we have a regional council that is coming to push forward the development agendas in these two regions. We have the councils that are doing something similar. We have Ministry of Public Works that is going to be doing something similar. Isn't this an opportunity for these two structures to be given greater powers, greater competence?
No. Oh, is it your turn to speak?
Yes.
Is your
just go. Yes. I was
okay. Anyway, okay. Sorry, I bumped into him. Listen, I don't know how to put this. The problems that we are facing is not a problem of structure. It's a problem of persons. And I think I was anxious to speak because someone was saying that SOWEDA has done better than like NOWEDA or whatever. MIDENO. Now this is it. For you, an outsider, you see a single bridge over there and a road that was graded over there and some huts that is built out there. It gives you the impression that they are working. But you need to go into the background and find out how much money they were given and what they did with it. What was the level of efficacy or efficiency? How efficiently did they use the resources? They have a few things to blindfold you, but in reality, if you gave that money to a group of serious people, if people were using the money to do their private business, let's say you give money to a Bamileke man to invest in his farm, you will see what he invested with that money. But here you have you have a lot of people who take the money and slice off as much as they can, create their own fake companies and give the things to themselves, and then just slice all this money and put in pockets and then put some little scarecrows here and there to tell you that they have been doing something. That's where the problem is. And what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter what we do. It is only that after that dialogue that there will be ceasefire and all these things reconsidered, that can be proper reconstruction. You reconstruct the person first, then you put in place real structures that work, and you keep an eye on them and you kick them in the ass when they don't do it. And until we get to a point where we respect merit and we forget about this thing about giving people posts because they are of this political party, and the time has come for us to reconstruct Cameroon, and it's not party lines that can do that.
Okay, yes, Derek, we are talking about the development of these two regions. Today we are talking about a regional council that is supposed to also look into the development issues of these SOWEDA and MIDENO not be redefined and given greater powers and capacities and competence.
You know, we are talking about decentralization in Cameroon, and that should be part of what should be done. But for Cameroon to come out of the shit they are in, Cameroon needs an enlightened despot. Cameroon needs someone who has an iron hand. Sometimes we used to think that Mr. Biya rules with the iron hand, but he is not really an iron man like, let's say, Paul Kagame of Rwanda. If Cameroon has to survive, we are told, I'm told by friends, not really confirmed, that Kaskumba and Kast Bambili were all built with the same budget, but Kaskumba was not inaugurated because Kaskumba was built and the technology part of the money was embezzled, because both of them were supposed to be cast, but the one in Bamenda has technology section and the one in Kumba doesn't have. Aijo was infuriated not to have seen, and sanctions were taken. But with the situation we have in Cameroon, or the situation we have now, we need that particular situation where we have accountability, and that accountability can only be managed by a despot, someone who has the iron fist and who accepts that things should be done the way they are done. Giving power to people who are not accountable will not help us, whether we decentralize that whatever, because first and foremost, decentralization will never help Cameroon. It cannot help Cameroon. It is the people's will that will help this country. And if we really have things to work the way they are, Mr. Leo, if we are not careful, we may be reconstructing into destruction, because what is causing this destruction has not been solved. The real problem is at the background. It has not been seen. So what is needed is not really that those people should be given power. No, the people have been given power. They have misused the power. They have been given money. They have misused the money. They have been given trust. They have misused the trust. What we need is someone with an iron hand who will make them accountable for the resources they are given. And what actually is needed is that the problems we have in Cameroon, we should put them on a scale of preference. Look at what is pressing. Solve that pressing problem. And that pressing problem is the guns that are smoking in the street. Because if we don't silence those guns smoking in the street, every other thing will be blah, blah, blah. And should we even give out money? Should we even give out money to this country? It will not help us. Mr. Leo, remember when the Prime Minister went to Boya? He had a meeting in Boya and he talked to GCAM. And on talking to GCAM had promised, Mr. Leo had promised to remove 500 million francs CFA, and they promised to double that 500 million francs CFA to 1 billion if at all the first phase of reconstruction will be successful. Why? Because they are doubting what is going to happen. So what is actually to happen to help this country is when we have people who will accept to work for the people, not people who work for a person, because Cameroon at this time is working for a person. GCAM, Mr. Liu, as I repeat, GCAM is even afraid, because GCAM told the Prime Minister that we are willing to carve out 500 million, and if the first phase of reconstruction can work, then we will double, because there is that fear in the field.
Okay, many persons are asking why SOWEDA and MIDENO are not here to talk for themselves. Like I said earlier on, I've made many attempts at getting to some of them. It is true that SOWEDA, once I was received to do an interview there, but it's pretty difficult to get them, and to say that if what we are presenting here is not appropriate, let them come on, man. Our doors are open to come and give the real facts on what they are doing, especially with respects to accountability. And maybe there are many things that they are doing that the population is not aware of. This is the days we are going to give them an opportunity to tell the world what they are doing, and to say greetings to you who is working with SOWEDA, watching us right now, and to you working with MIDENO, also watching us right now. We think that SOWEDA and MIDENO should be involved more in the development activities of these two regions. But do you also think that they should not be given greater powers, greater competence, especially at a time where we are seeing the regional councils coming into play? Should these people not be given, be used as the development arm of the two regions?
It's not if they should be given. They had the powers to a certain extent. They had the powers, but the issue now is, what did they do with the power? They were kind of afraid most of the times. Like, maybe you go out of your comfort zone, or maybe if you take an extra mile, maybe they could bring you problems. They could dismiss you. They could appelé you d'autres fonctions. So all those kind of stuff like that. But one thing for sure is that these two entities are the breeding, or are the driving force in the economy of these two regions and the nation as a whole, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, we will need these two bodies to beef up the agricultural sector. We will need these bodies to go down to the grassroots level to help those in Dock to cultivate rice, to help those in Way Village and Menchum Division to cultivate the maize that they are cultivating, to help those in Momo Division to cultivate the cocoyam that they are cultivating, to help those who are doing their tomatoes to come to the Southwest region, to help those who are doing cocoa production. A lot of these activities rely on these two persons. But Leo, there's one thing that we should understand here. A while ago, I made mention of the fact that between 1961 to 1972, the structures that were in the Northwest and Southwest region, formerly called West Cameroon, actually succeeded. They succeeded because of the structure, the political structure, because people were not doing things based on entitlement. There was one party system at the time. We had the CNU, when the CNU in 1966, when the CNU, all parties were amalgamated to form the CNU. There was still that development. People were not doing entitlement. You were not seeing people working based on party affiliation, though we had just one party at the time. Yeah, but now with multi-party politics.
We are not talking about parties here.
No, I don't want to bring the entitlement syndrome where it's coming from, because entitlement syndrome, people are paying allegiance to their political party, thinking that without their party they will not survive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know whether the resources required to engage heavy development in these two regions were actually given to these people. My question to you is, don't we think that greater resources should be given to them? Because when it comes to competence, I would want you to go, a journalist, find out whether they're not competent.
Mr. Leo, in terms of greater resources, it should be accorded to these two sectors or not. I will tell you here and now that what they need is not resources. What they need is structure. They need a structure that can be accountable to itself first before you give resources. Let me be very honest with you. You take 50 billion, it will be like the COVID funds we have. You take 50 billion, you pump into this sector, nothing will happen. They will still siphon the money. The problem is the mentality, is the structure. It's because, Mr. Losi, you can go to a company and that company has no money, but we have strategies. It's a strategy that brings in money. We have strategy. You can sign partnership. You can sign convention. We have agricultural schools inundated left and right, left, right, center. How many of these schools are partners to SOWEDA? How many of these schools are partners to MIDENO? We have industries in Douala that are doing food processing industry. How many of these industries are partners to MIDENO? How many of these industries are partners to SOWEDA? Do we expect the head of state to go and tell MIDENO that go and sign partnership with these institutions? It takes the bosses of those companies to meet those schools and tell Dr. Nika, hey, you have an agricultural sector in your school, give me 30 of your students. Let me give them farm in mainstream division. Let me allocate them and see how they will generate resources. You come to the Catholic University of Boya, we have agricultural students there. You go to University of Boya, you take all those, you harness, you build a strong partnership base. You start by your individual side. You say, okay, let's start with this little that we have. You don't need money. I can do that.
Okay, yeah, you can do that. I hope you are doing that already in Moya, where you live. Greetings to you in the studio.
Yes, of course.
I like your programs. Anglophones are very dangerous to Anglophones. Cyprian is writing from Mbonge. Good evening to all of you people. I think we don't need the construction of Northwest and Southwest, but we need is self-reconstruction. The government needs reconstruction, solve the problems from its roots, not by creating their own problems and bringing solutions and claim they want reconstruction. By Mubarak, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Mubarak. Greetings to Mr. Leo and crew. I appreciate you all for being very blunt in the topic of today. In fact, what has destroyed and is still killing Cameroon and is responsible for the death of many Cameroonians plus national disintegration, especially with regards to the Northwest and Southwest, is praise singing and psychophancy of some party militants. Allow me to appreciate my life model, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, for being very courageous and frank to what is correct. More grace to you all. Tikum T.E. in Bomenda. Good evening to you, Tikum. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The problem with Cameroon is that it has been reduced to an NGO belonging to an individual. So everybody works to please but the individual owner. Henry is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Henry. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I love your program. This is Hassan Kier writing from Bangolan in Ndop. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm enjoying the program of the day. God bless you with your good work. The future of this country lies in your hands. Taku Michel writing from Kongsamba. Good evening, Mr. Leo. My name is Yamos. I'm watching you live from Ghana. Thank you very much. Yamos, good evening, Mr. Leo, and to everyone in the studio. The government can't be talking about reconstruction. Meanwhile, those in questions are still in prison. If the government wants to do anything, let them release all those people in prison and accept what is at hand. Then development can come after. Apart from that, nothing can be done. Thank you. Ebubedike is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Ebube. Please, Mr. Leo, let's try and reason with Dr. Nick, because the truth is that we need a new phase of government. We have good ideas and solutions to build this country, but these ideas can never be implemented with the same regime. Good evening, Mr. Combs. Severally, Dr. Nick has insisted that there will be another dialogue and speaks with a lot of confidence. Could he tell Cameroonians how soon we could be expecting this dialogue, for we are tired of losing lives? Say Ewen. Andrew, writing from Douala. Dr. Nick, good evening to all the panelists. Mr. Leo, I appreciate your program. It teaches a lot. Kudos to Mr. Ngwanyam. His words are so true that I wish those concerned should listen and learn. Wenda Maxell, writing from Bonamusadi, not far from where we are broadcasting from. Good evening, Mr. Leo. We all have failed as Cameroonians, so let's stop the blame because we too have our own weaknesses. All what we need is peace, and the rest will follow. Mula Faku is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you. Mula, we are glad you're always watching. Hi Leo, these structures are very relevant for development, but the challenge is because every project is politicized, and there is no monitoring mechanism to enable communities kick out inefficient leaders. Greed is also a large concern. J.N. Agbo, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you and our co-panelists in the studio. All the ministers in Cameroon goes to work knowing that their job is upload for the president. Okay, you want to say upload for the president and not to work for the citizens. Papa Oyoyo, writing from Douala here. Good evening, Mr. Leo and all the panelists on board. I really appreciate the ideas of Mr. Ta and Dr. Nick, especially the idea of putting people on duty posts which they do not merit. I know of a typical example around Edina where a classroom teacher through his connections was sent, okay, future sector, in a marine field, and today he has brought only his village people to the place. Noella is writing from Douala. Thanks. Okay. Yes. Yes, but I want us to look at it. We are in a situation that needs fixing. Dr. Nick, SOWEDA is there. I'm not sure they are going anywhere anytime soon. MIDENO is also there. They are not going anywhere soon because the two regions need development from these two structures. What should be the way forward?
There's going to be development in these two regions when the new form of state is defined, and at that time they will have no voice. Things would happen differently with or without them, because they've been there for long and did nothing. In fact, you know, I'm sitting and talking on TV here. I'm calling with one of my friends up in Bamenda who is telling me that MIDENO has done a great job and that they bought equipment with all the billions that they were given and they have no work to show. And he's telling me that they are the ones who clean the Babaju road. That is not good enough. You see, what we are saying is you can buy equipment, but if you are not using the equipment to do something that people are saying is as good as no use, it's not very different from those tractors that were packed in a Bolova. People are interested in problems being solved, and a season is coming when all those structures will be properly looked into to see what was really done and what was not done, you know. And people will keep complaining that, oh, we don't have resources. You know, government has pumped in a lot of resources. ADB has pumped in a lot of resources, you know, through even GP Derudeb that is under MIDENO. But you don't seem to see much for the resources, for those billions that they were given. And that is a real problem. And a season is coming in this country where all of that is going to change. Like I was saying, when you begin to see dragonflies, you know that the dry season is around.
Okay. This correction, this one says CAS Kumba was inaugurated by President Amadou Ahidjo alongside GTC Kumba, today GTHS Kumba. I was a student of that school. Thanks. Pa Asongwe is writing from Bamenda. I am Madam Ngale Job. Good evening, Mr. Leo and crew. I'm writing from Bova 2 village. I'm watching you live. Thank you very much. Hi, Mr. Leo. Right on, interesting. I'm also a farmer still as a child. Flames from Bamenda up station. Thanks. Okay. Yes. What should be the way forward for both MIDENO and SOWEDA, especially in the context of the reconstruction process of the troubled southwest and northwest regions?
I think the first thing is that we should have livable peace. We should be able to have peace in those two regions, because you cannot for now say that you go and inject money into those two structures thinking that they are going to do anything. The first thing, which is of very utmost importance, is that let's struggle to have peace retained to those two regions. Let's see what we have not done, and if we are honest to ourselves, we should be able to understand that all the measures that have been put in place has not yielded any fruits, and that it's time for us to maybe rethink, see what we can do, because it was a fervent hope of everybody that when we went in for the major national dialogue, that after that dialogue we'll just come back and then maybe after some few months we have peace. So if there is no peace, we cannot build anything, we cannot reconstruct. So the first thing is to see how peace should return to those two regions. Once we have done with that, let's now talk. Let's have people should not say things for us. Let's ourselves talk what we want. How do we want those structures to look like? Who do we want them to manage it? What is the budget? Do we vote for it? Not that we leave things in the hands of strangers and then they come and impose. No. Let's.
But in the process, in the planning process, because reconstruction has not effectively taken off, though to some little extent, some priority areas have been touched. But in the planning process, should SOWEDA and
they should be associated. They should not be left out. They should be associated. But like I'm saying, even the reconstruction plan at this present point in time is a failure, because we know that those two regions are still in crisis. There is just relative the peace. There's just relative peace that within maybe the urban towns. But when you go to the other suburbs, you see that the guns are still firing, and there is nobody is safe. You will not maybe they will not engage you maybe into an agricultural project, and then the next day you hear that it is burnt down or it has been
Good evening.
brought down.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Chinda Ferdinand, writing from Yaoundé. Your program is always wonderful. I just want to appreciate Dr. Nick. I love the way he always talks. He's talking like a prophet. I can remember he once said COVID money would expose some leaders in this country and liberate us, the Anglophones, and I can see it coming. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I love your program. Just want to greet my wife, Gladys, and my lovely angel, Faith. Alice Mamayo is Bonjour, writing from Yaoundé. The writing is not too clear. Good evening, Mr. Kum, and all of you in the studio. I love your program. Edwin is writing from Loom. I'm Joshua Fongu, writing from Kumba. Please, I studied in CAS Bambili, and the technology department was all about cutting grass. I want to ask the young man in red and white whether technology in Cameroon is all about cutting grass and manual labor. Okay. Bernard, writing from Bamenda, I want to let Senator Lekunzewu is the phone of Bam Mumbu. Bear in mind that I'm not in the village to be pushing. Yeah, we are not part of. That is not part of our program. Please. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu. Is Terry writing from Limbe? The regime in Yaoundé is not serious. How can the president appoint and I will not read any insultive words. Good evening to you in the studio. Is Berry King writing from Bonaberry? The reconstruction already started in Bui with more than 50 houses burnt. Please. Okay, tell Dr. Anglophones are not fools, okay? Good evening. In the studio, Cameroon is as a whole needs a total halt in a system. The gentleman in white is correct. We need a leader to rule with an iron fist. Okay. Mr. Kum, good evening to you. Now, what should be the way forward to get not only SOWEDA and MIDENO, but key stakeholders in the regions to be part of the overall plan, because there is always this complaint that things that are organized in Yaoundé, contracts are awarded to people from Yaoundé to go implement in this region. So,
yeah, the way forward, Mr. Leo, should be forward. The way forward should be doing the right thing, and Yaoundé knows the right thing. In simple economics, we talk of automatic stabilizer. When the right thing is done, there are a lot of automatic things that will happen to stabilize the economy. And one of those things that has to be done is that the guns have to leave the street. Remember, these boys sits in the bushes have metamorphosized from using local guns. They are now using explosives every day. We see them on social media being paraded. And we think that some people may use certain issues to settle scores. You may still start the reconstruction of MIDENO and it gets blown off, and we don't know, because most often what is reported on social media is unidentified men, and up till date one has never identified any. So what has to be done for the way forward is that the right thing should be done for the right development to follow.
Okay, the right thing should be done for the right development to follow. Njulefak Anastasia, writing from Konsamba, says, good evening, Mr. Leo and your intelligent panelists. I am enjoying your program. We are going to have better days ahead. I really believe in what Dr. Nick is saying. You people should keep up the good job. Good evening to you, Anastasia, and to you, Daisy, watching from Kumba. Please, in Bamayo, they are trading us like slaves with the Anglophones in Bamayo. Okay, I will look that message and then we'll come back to it. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The problem in Cameroon is that the government is a person who imposes and not the people who deliberate and take a common decision. We need a mentality change with the people up there. Akumbom Evans, writing from Bomenda, what should be done?
What should be done? We have three things that needs to be done. First, we should be true to who we are. Second, we should stand for what we believe, and we should work for what must be done. Those are simple, because if we cannot do that, we will definitely not be able to solve our problems. Call it federation, call it confederation, call it whichever form of state. If you put it in this current context, that we see Cameroon to be, it will not work.
People need to start.
We need a rethink. Like Dr. Nick said some time ago on your panel, that we need a mental reconstruction. Like I said when we started discussing that the scope of reconstruction is limited. They should widen their scope. It should be level by level, committee by committee. If you ask the reconstruction committee, are there subcommittees under the reconstruction? They will not be able to tell you what is in their mind. What is in their mind? We only hear about the buildings, and what about the mental reconstruction? What about the spiritual reconstruction? What about the day-to-day talking to the people in terms of reconstruction? That we need tangible evidence. There is something in law that the truth should speak for itself. I think they call it Resica Lokito, that the truth should speak for itself. You should not be telling people that 1 + 1 is 2, of which what we see you are writing is not 2, you are writing 4. Let me give practical example. If we are talking about way forward, who is the Prime Minister of this country? It's an Anglophone. The Deputy Speaker who died was an Anglophone. Let's come to the former Prime Minister, was an Anglophone. The head of Reconstruction Committee, they are Anglophones. Are you telling us that these people who are our bona fide, they understand that we are suffering because we don't have MIDENO, which is active. We are suffering because we don't have WADA that's active. They cannot see what we are seeing to say, hey, let's come together and put our hands on deck and make these two structures work, so that the region should boom again, so that these people from Elwani can be producing their palm oil. Those in Bombay, Bakundu can be producing their palm oil and their rubber plantation. Those in Widikum can be doing other things. Yeah. It all takes goodwill, as I said. If these people don't have the goodwill, Yaoundé is not holding any power. They are the person selling us to Yaoundé if you are talking about holding power, because the day that somebody will resign that, no, I am not doing this because it's not favoring me, I think we change. I like what Chief Dr. Ebako said. He was plain. And if we need lead, if we have just 5, if we had just 5 key elites who can come and say, hey, this thing is not working, let us do it like this. It's for the good of Cameroon. It's not for the good of a particular party. It's for the good of everybody. It's for the good of unity. If you want unity in this country, you'll be true to what we stand for. If you want that vigor and sound, you'll be true and realistic with what we stand for. There's one song I want to leave them with that I love from the Catholic Church, is that stand together for what you believe. Work for what must be done. Love each other in all that you do. To all my people are one.
Okay. No, stop callings, please. We are going to take some messages. Good evening, Mr. Kum. It's Charles Born, writing from Bamenda. Great for me. Doctor, I was happy when I heard him today talking over BBC about our good minister in Yaoundé, who is know how to use Cameroon money well. I don't know what he's trying to say. I'm sure COVID, it has to do with COVID again. The problem the regime in Yaoundé is facing is that of their track record. The bad antecedents have made Cameroonians to lose trust. Good messages from around me. Good evening to you in the studio. You guys always have nice topics of discussion. How can reconstruction take place when all people are in the bushes and others are fed by bullets every day? Let them cancel it and bring peace first before anything. Thanks. Rodney is writing from Yaoundé. The problem the regime in Yaoundé is facing is that of their track record. Okay, Smith is writing there. Thank you, Smith. Many thanks, Mr. Liu, with your wisdom and many of guests. I do enjoy the program. The way forward is proper engagement to the government and a true design of mind for a total understanding. Too much of it to know will not solve the basic situation. Good evening, Mr. Liu. How can peace be in this country when people are still in prison and burning of homes? It still continue. It's Valley writing from Bamenda. Stop the calls, please, I beg you. I concur with Dr. Nick's ideas. What kills development in Cameroon is that many institutions are created in order to realize a project. So much money is consumed by this personnel. Rather, I think to realize a good output, it's to meet these farmers. Okay. Andy from Cyprus says, good evening, Mr. Liu. The truth is that all these people are members of the CPDM parties. Like we are asking a dead man fingers to hold something for you. The problem is the regime. Andy from Cyprus. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, we are talking about SOWEDA and MIDENO today, and we are talking about trust. Is it also imperative for both structures and other structures to be more accountable to the people, so that the people can know that the resources at their disposal are even minimal, so that they understand them better? Do we need them to communicate more?
Listen, I'd like to make everybody understand that if you're looking for one person who is very uncomfortable and not happy in this nation, is President Paul Biya. Because he gives opportunities to people and gives them the resources and so on, but they still spin around like primary school children and come, you know. That is the whole problem. And the problem again is civil servants with the civil service mentality. Many of us don't have entrepreneurial skills, and that is where the problem lies. So it doesn't matter what you do with that MIDENO, so whether go up one and many of these structures. In the next Cameroon, if you don't make people have entrepreneurial skills, if you don't pick up people and push them up for their entrepreneurial skills, nothing will change. We need to change. Like I said at the beginning, make Jerangala the governor of the Northwest region. Make him the governor and see what will happen. Forget about the fact that he's in the CPDM. It's not even about CPDM. It's about a mindset. Make Jerangala the governor of the Northwest province and you will see what will happen. So let's stop all this beating around the bush. People don't have capacity.
Okay, you think so too?
Yeah.
Even if Jerangala is the governor and works, should he not render account? We are talking about accountability.
I think the problem is we should have that spirit of answering to the people. We don't have that. We should cultivate that spirit. We don't have it. We have the spirit of looking at others, or people who are governing us as gods. They make gods that he does as he likes and he has no account to give you. So until we build that spirit, that when we are given maybe public funds to manage, we should understand that those funds are public funds. They are not our private money. Public funds, we manage it judiciously and we render accounts. It's very normal in Cameroon that when they give you money and they are coming for accounting, you start panicking. No, why should you panic? Those funds were given to you to manage for public utility. So when they are coming to ask account, you should be very happy to explain to the people that you gave me this amount of money, I spent it this way. So if we don't cultivate that habit of rendering accounts, and it is not only at the level of those managing those structures, it's from the top. There is an article in the Constitution that says that we have to declare our assets.
Article 66.
Article 66. It has never been implemented. Nobody wants to look towards that direction. Just to tell you that even at the helm of the state, he manages and doesn't think he has to give you account. So with that kind of mentality or that kind of culture, do you think that is at the lower level or at the lower structure that you really see people doing things differently? No, I think it's a whole chain, and until we stop and say no, there should be a renaissance of Cameroon. There should be another Cameroon, or maybe if this is the second republic, there should be a third republic. where we'll have those people that will be able to give account to others.
Okay.
And when things don't work, you are brought down, and then somebody that can manage should be put to where he should manage.
Okay. Stephen Azunwi from Bonaberi Douala, I want to thank you all for being there and talking to rebuild our dearly beloved nation, Cameroon. Just to say that our fatherland will be a paradise on earth when we will all tend to respect the various institutions in place and not the people at the top of the institutions. God bless us all. Thank you very much, and I say amen to that. Greetings. Cameroon can only move forward after the regime gone and a government that have the people at heart takes over, not what transpired in Chad. Okay. Mr. Shallow is writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Mr. Shallow. Tila Betran writing from Bamenda. I'm glad being a participant again. Your programs are very interesting and educating. We need to love this our beautiful country, Cameroon, both in our words and actions. We should not keep criticizing our country and sending it in the mouth of the devil. Rather, we should bless this country by having active leaders who actively carry out the span of control. For our problem is mismanagement and accountability. I love the way Dr. Nick speaks. God bless us all. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all of you in the studio. I am Leonard New, writing from Kishi village in Kumbu. We are in the bush for 3 weeks. I just want you people to tell the regime that we are suffering and dialogue should only be the way out before reconstruction. Okay, I'll share for you guys. Greetings, sir. I'm called Mbabit Caleb Bauman, writing from Kumba. Bauman, good evening to you. Mr. Leo, Dr. Nick says Paul Biya is not comfortable. My dear friends, let's not be fooled. He has all the power in Cameroon. Let him sack those ministers until he gets someone who can do the job and he keeps his comfort aside. Let him leave it to come to Bamenda as he did for the military celebration, and we talk to him. Let him listen, and then he can make good changes. What keeps him in his palace that he cannot move? Bertrand is writing from Bamenda. Son Derek, you want greater accountability, you want greater communication also from these bodies?
Of course, we want that when the taxpayers' money is sent out, it should be accounted for, and then there should be a redefinition of what patriotism is. Patriotism is not supporting the ruling party. Patriotism is not belonging to the president's camp. Patriotism is not following the ruling party. It is when you do the right things. Because sometimes when people criticize what is true, they look at them to be unpatriotic. But unfortunately, Cameroon needs to redefine what patriotism is. To understand that when you support a wrong system, when you dance along with the system, it doesn't mean you are patriotic. To be patriotic means say it the way it is. Even when others say it to be wrong, say it the right way, the way it is.
Okay. Ndi Lawrence Ngong, writing from Bamenda, says, good evening, Mr. Liu and co-panelists. I am following your program. If we are talking about MIDENO, we should appreciate the new management for providing farm inputs to farmers to fight food insufficiency in the northwest regions. God bless you. Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Liu. This is Kizito in Bamenda. How can MIDENO and SOWEDA, when all their powers have been seized before 1972, these structures were constructing roads, but today these structures have DOs, board of directors to these structures, making it difficult for the heads of these structures to help the poor population. Greetings to all in the panelists. I love the program. I hope the leaders are getting you all. Chingo Armstrong is writing from Bengui. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The time has come that the truth must be revealed, so let's wait and see. Is Emma Binka writing from Amumezam in Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I enjoy your program so much because with your program meeting us to understand that the government is trying to hide many things from the Cameroonians. Thank you. I'm called Ndifonzak, writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Sally writing from Kumba? I love the program. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Sally. Yes, MIDENO is there. SOWEDA is there. Other existing structures are there. The Northwest and Southwest elites are there. How can the elite help SOWEDA and MIDENO perform their duties better?
The elite should remember that they have brothers and sisters who are in these two regions. They should understand that these brothers and sisters need not to depend on them to send them to school or to give them scholarship. They should understand that one day they will retire and they will come back to these residents. The electricity, epilepsy, the poor road, they will experience them. So what they need to do right now is to come together as a force and look at what are the things that are not working as far as MIDENO is concerned, as far as SOWEDA is concerned. Maybe is it an issue of mismanagement or is it an issue of centralization of power? If it's an issue of centralization of power, why don't we write motion now of demands, not motion of support, and say, dear His Excellency President Paul Biya, we, your sons and daughters of these regions, are happy with you, but we want to propose that you should at least delegate powers to these authorities, or at least improve its financial challenges. We want to request that if money can be disbursed to this body so that they can function and help these regions meet up with the objective of creating farm to market road, meet up with the objective of beefing up local production, meet up with the objective of increasing agricultural productivity. Because if we have motion of support when it comes to election, why can't we have motion of demand? We rarely see motion of demand. We mostly see the motion of support that will guarantee that will give 100%. But let me tell you, the state will take the elite serious when they send a joint communique and appreciating what has been done, what needs to be done, what is lacking, and what they think could be the way forward, as we see in other communiques. I think that's the way forward. Okay. Nobody will harm them, nobody will sack them, because they say he who is already on the ground is not afraid to fall. When you're already on the ground, you're not afraid to fall, except they want us to keep ringing their phone, begging for money, and which we will always continue to do that.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Norbert Young, writing from Bamenda. The problem of Anglophones are the Anglophone elites. Until this regime is gone, with its old mentality, nothing can ever change. We need a new blood and a new mentality for this country to move forward. Good evening, Mr. Liu. All the mafia is being controlled from a center in honor of one man. We should never expect accountability from a regime which keeps a retired person like the helm of an institution like SOWEDA for more than 20 years and more, with no checks. To who do you think he will pay allegiance to? Tiku Felix Ndip, writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Elvis, watching from Minneapolis. Greetings to all in the panel. Keep enlightening us. Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. Please, thanks for your education, but all it believe in is the Confederation. Earlier mentioned, sometimes that was by Dr. Nick. Greetings to you all in the studio. Is Kurichi, writing from BD. Okay. Ali Anderson there, writing from the United States, also say, what makes us feel there will be a regime change? There is a difference between regime change and personality change. Yeah, that is also a thought-provoking one there, my brother. Now, Dr. Nick Angwanyam, your last words are, certainly you have some words for the management of SOWEDA MIDENO, and certainly to those heading the Reconstruction Committee. What would be your appeal to them?
Oh, thank you very much. I just want to key from where Jarvis ended to say that the problems of MIDENO and SOWEDA is not money. Give them a ton of money, nothing would happen. No, nothing will happen. First, number one, because they lack managerial skills and they lack vision and they lack discipline. So because they lack these things, they're not going to produce anything. So it's not money. You just give them as much money as you want. They're not very different from someone who wins at a national lottery and has a lot of money. They're the same. It's the same mindset. You win at the national lottery, 2 months afterwards you have nothing. or you become worse. So they have a lot of money and a lot of resources, but because they lack entrepreneurial skills, they lack discipline, they lack problem-solving skills. That's where we are. That's why we are where we are today. But the good news is all of that is going to be gone, because again, as I said, there's going to be a dialogue, there's going to be reconciliation, as there's going to be unity, and that dialogue is going to be a no-nonsense dialogue. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. I love the program. I'm Ibrahim, writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and I really appreciate your program. I wish to ask Dr. Ngwanyam if he will not blame himself as leader if his business ventures fails as a result of the poor output of his employees. If he would blame himself, then it's just but right for him to honestly admit that President Paul Biya is fundamentally responsible for the poor development of this great nation. Sama Nwana is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Your program is mega. Dr. Nick, I respect you and your ideas, but please never support Biya of his negligence. What stops him from watching private news TV or read newspapers to know what is happening? He's simply okay. Emma is also writing from Bamenda. So good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Basil writing from Banga. I'm enjoying the program. I really appreciate it. Good evening to all of you watching us from Banga, in Lum, Benja, and the Mungo division as a whole. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love your program. Keep it up. Fonkeng Martin is writing from Douala. Government likes to put on white sheet, but they don't know how to control it. From Achu Soup. Okay. Hello to you all in the studio. Yes, we need a fresh blood, but how sure are we that the new blood will be better than the old blood? We should look at those working with him. Okay, let Dr. Nick lift that CPDM propaganda. Is Eric writing from Kumba? Yes, certainly you also have something to tell SOWEDA and MIDENO and the Reconstruction Committee.
Yes, the only thing I want to tell them is that they should work hand in hand. They should not be working in isolation, because when they do that, we feel that somebody is neglected. I think there should be proper cooperation between those two bodies, and they should have that spirit of communicating. They should be able to tell us what are the activities. They should hold frequent sessions with people of the press, so that at least we know what they are doing and what they are not doing. And if, for example, if there was an annual maybe report on the activity, one will be very confident and knowledgeable enough to know that, okay, this is what they are doing. So what is ongoing now as a reconstruction plan, if actually it's genuine and sincere, they should work in partnership to make sure that, at least because those structures, they have been existing for long. One is 40 years old, another is 37 years old. I think the reconstruction plan is just coming some few days. So those two, they should try to work in partnership and entrust some of those projects to these organizations. I think by doing that, we'll love to see the
why not do short documentaries about their job?
Yes,
what they are doing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. They should be doing short documentaries, inviting the press to speak to people, so that at least people are aware about what they are doing.
Okay.
But if they decide to, if you like, for example, you said you had difficulties having them, I pray that maybe this program is going to excite some of them to come and clarify.
Okay.
And maybe another time you hold a program that will be specifically maybe for representatives of those two structures.
Good evening, Mr. Liu, and your panelists. Appreciate your wonderful program. Keep on. I am Mola Keju, writing from Melon. The entire Mungo is watching. I think action speaks louder than what if the head of state is not happy with the happenings in this country. He should take concrete actions through speedy court trial, and those guilty of embezzling are dismissed and their wealth confiscated to recover the amount stolen. Smith is writing from Boya. He says, good evening to Dr. Nick. Good evening to you too, Smith. Good evening. I love your program. Is Ndunda Prosper writing there from where we don't know. Good evening. This is just beating about the bush. The elites are the problems because they are there to glorify their boss who has given them the leeway to embezzle. George Ewan gave a glaring picture of those drowning this country. Dr. Nick and other entrepreneurs should be given the chance to restructure our educational system. John Ndukong writing there. Greetings, Mr. Liu. Please tell the gentleman that if we are to write to the head of state, we are not telling him that we are happy before complaining, but telling him categorically that we are not happy with him. Mr. Shalom also writing. Yes, good evening to this wonderful panel. If they can't construct the Babaju road because of insecurity, how then will they be able to reconstruct the two regions? Edmond writing from Yaoundé, good evening, says the real problem of our country is leadership. Okay. Chinda Oliver writing from Douala, good evening once more, Mr. Leo. The truth is that this war is that the government is not telling the truth to its citizens. Valley is writing from Amanda. Yes. Your last words.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Leo. What I will first of all want to say is that a harmful truth is better than a comforting lie. I should be very straight to tell the head of state that he is not ignorant about what is happening. He knows what is happening and he knows what to do. And talking about reconstruction, the problem with wars is that it ends where it's supposed to start. It was supposed to start on a dialogue table, and we need that dialogue to talk to ourselves. And for us to do anything in the name of reconstruction, we cannot reconstruct with the guns in our streets. And for us to keep away these guns, we need peace. And what is peace? Peace is an intercourse between justice and truth. We must look at each other face to face and say the truth, and then apply justice to whom justice is due. If not, we'll be going around circles, because this country is crumbling. It is the youth that will suffer to reconstruct. As it stands now, we are talking about the reconstruction of SOWEDA and MIDENO, but very soon we'll start talking about embezzlements of funds. We've talked about 53 billion recently, 180 billions to be accounted for COVID money. It is this country you're putting in debt, and it is the youth that will pay the future money that is taken to enrich few individuals. So, Mr. Leo, my last words is to them is that if you want to plunge this country into the abyss, it is our children, it is your children that will suffer the consequences tomorrow.
Okay, Jarvis, thank you for being part of this edition of the program.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Thanks to all those who took our time to criticize us and to tell them that my media prime is always open for them to come to and give their own contribution. Above all, I want to thank the reconstruction team for their brilliant effort in Bamenda Babaju Road, and to tell them that we are seeing how nice it is and God should bless them.
Okay, we want to thank you too, Dr. Nick, for coming.
Thank you very much. I'm laughing because we are real jokers. Again, my parting words. I'm glad that everybody is waking up to this dialogue. There's going to be dialogue. I'm going to sing it like a song. There's going to be dialogue, and everybody will hear that dialogue. There's going to be reconciliation, and there's going to be unity, and there will be a mindset change in this nation. And I told Tamfu that 350 political parties are going to take a death. They're going to die a natural death, because there will be a paradigm shift. So you die whether you like it or not, and something else would come up.
Okay, thank you too, Barrister, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo.
Okay, Song, thank you for being part of this edition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo, for the trust you give to us, and thanks to the million viewers of My Media Prime.
Okay.
We are always very happy when you constructively criticize us, and indeed we learn from your criticisms.
Okay, we want to thank you all for watching the program, and to you, Desmond and Eli, thank you guys very, very much, and Bertrand and Noel, we equally want to say thank you to you, Tabit and Bryant, who is assisting us in all we are doing out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Osmose inverse est un système de filtrage d'eau ultra performant qui ne laisse passer que les molécules d'eau. Ce système de filtrage révolutionnaire est désormais présent en Afrique grâce au groupe Exosa Afrique à travers l'eau osmosée Exosa. Une eau de haute qualité pour la santé. Elle est recommandée aux personnes de tout âge. Faiblement minéralisée, elle assure la protection du rein. Légère et fluide, l'eau osmosée Exosa facilite la digestion, hydrate parfaitement les cellules et assure une meilleure oxygénation du cerveau, le drainage et la purification du sang et des organes. Ma santé plus avec l'eau osmosée Exosa. Enfin, une eau de haute qualité pour la santé.
Together, let's celebrate football non-stop for 50 days with the UEFA European League, UEFA Champions League finals. And from the 11th June onwards, you can watch the UEFA Euro 2020 in full live and in HD, commented on by our best experts on the Canal Plus Sports channels. And right now, the HD decoder is only 5,000 francs from the Access formula. Hurry to take advantage of it now.